Why is it that every time I see a viral TikTok of a screaming pink-haired feminist, y'all already know what's coming next? You're gonna get the entitlement, a bunch of rage, the incoherent threats and the rants, and then the tears, and then inevitably you get a GoFundMe link. So let's just ask the question that nobody wants to touch. Are liberal women just unhappy and are more likely to struggle with mental illness than a conservative woman? I've been wanting to ask this question for a really long time. So that's what today's show is going to be about. I need y'all to buckle up. I've got receipts. I pulled a little research, and I'm just going to bring a nice little righteous reality check. It's all coming your way. Coming up next on Unshakable with April Chapman. Let's get into it. Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I'm your host, April Chapman, and on today's show, I had to dive into this one. This was going to be a spicy one. I've been wanting to ask, why do liberal women, statistically speaking, why are they reporting to be more depressed and more anxious and more just dissatisfied with life than conservative women? Now, here's a spoiler alert. It's not because conservative women just have like better hair care routines. It's not even something as superficial as that at all. Honestly, I have resolved to just accept and acknowledge that it's because our worldview matters. When you build your life on sand, you can't be surprised when the waves of life come knocking. They will knock you flat and leave you with a boatload of regret, which leads to a lot of unhappiness. So here's what I want to do. I want to analyze some data. In preparing for the show, I said, I think it's important. I can anecdotally make these statements. However, I wanted to address, or at least take a look to see, what does the data show? Now, the data shows that studies from a myriad of sources. Let me just pull them up real quick. We have Unheard, Pew, and Deseret News. They all show that conservative women are far more likely to report life satisfaction, particularly in the areas of their family life, in comparison to liberal women. It also shows, here are the numbers: 61% of conservative women report being completely satisfied with their family life. Do you want to know what the numbers are for liberal women? It's in the low 30s. You guys, that's really low. And regarding mental health stats, it boasts that over 50% of young liberal women, they have reported and been diagnosed with mental illness. Compare that to just 21% of young conservative women. So basically, when you attempt to unpack and comprehend these results, it sounds to me like it's saying that if you wander into a women's march and flip a coin, you have a 50% chance of women holding a smash the patriarchy sign. Those women are probably holding a prescription for SSRIs in their purse. I mean, what else am I supposed to think based on these numbers? This is very concerning. And what I want to do is I want to talk about, why does such a disparity exist, right? What does all of this mean? And what could be at the crux of this matter? Well, I'm arguing that worldview matters, right? So when you have to compare a secular worldview to one that is more conservative in nature, a secular worldview breeds misery. And it's obvious how that happens. Think about it. If you hold to a liberal ideology teaches women that they are victims, right? And it's not just that. Liberal ideology encourages toxic behavior that is contrary to how the Lord and God designed us to function. Liberal ideology is telling women that marriage is oppressive, and that if you have children, they're going to be burdens and impediments to you achieving and being all that you believe that you're supposed to be. And they're also telling these women that men are toxic. Okay, now that's a cocktail for bitterness loneliness, and surprise, the cray house, like mental instability. I don't see how, if you hold to all of those things, how you could be mentally healthy. Now, contrast that worldview with the biblical worldview. A biblical worldview breeds stability. So, for example, Proverbs 14:1, says, "The wisest of women builds her house, but folly with her own hands tears it down." Conservative women, you guys, which overwhelmingly, I'm not conflating Christians with conservatives, but most Christian women, if they're holding to biblical tenets and are believers, they are going to be conservative. But often Christian women or conservatives that hold to traditional values, statistically, they are more likely to marry, they are more likely to have children, and they will find fulfillment in family life versus something arbitrary out there, right? Also, and this is not just based on my own personal experience, but just all of the women that I know, conservative women tend to lead from a place of gratitude, right? They're incredibly grateful. They demonstrate a high level of responsibility. They have faith in God. The combination of these things does yield a healthier mental state. Meanwhile, y'all, liberal women are out here worshiping at the altar of self-love, right? So they're getting their therapy and their cues for how to live the world from TikTok and kale smoothies. And listen, I love a good kale smoothie too, but somehow these women, in light of all of the things that they are doing, they are still miserable. And to me, it's funny how all of this works, all of the self-care and the self-love and the taking out time for me. It's a lot of focusing on self, yet yourselves are not improved. And so I'm of the opinion that a lot of this possibly has a lot to do with the politics of what I like to call perpetual grievance, right? So liberal women, if you've ever examined them, they thrive on outrage culture.
I swear to God, if you idiots elect that demented man, I will burn this whole place to the ground.
You voted for a racist, a rapist, a dictator. You voted for a bully, a bigot, and a narcissist. Even the Germans tried to warn us, but you didn't listen. You didn't listen to the historians, the psychologists, the educators, and the intellectuals. Of course not, because dictatorship 101 is to convince you to distrust the media, the educated, and to create an us versus them mentality.
It would help if we could regulate social media, because one of the biggest offenders is DC and Congress have not been able to do one thing in regard to the rogue corporations of social media.
We may not have rights tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm scared to go to sleep. I might wake up in my sleigh.
Having a meltdown. I don't know how to do this. Right now, I'm just not. I can't deal with this right now. I am 48 years old and I have never experienced anything like this and never thought I would in this country.
Should we kill the kids in foster care?
Why not? Why not, if that's the case?
We should kill the kids in foster care that aren't wanted?
Who's going to take care of them? I need to know the percentage of people who take children from foster care and abuse them and molest them, who make them like personal slaves.
We should just kill them.
Statistics before you come to me talking about pro-life.
We should kill the victims of molestation.
I think, what does this have to do with molestation?
You just mentioned people molesting children. We should kill the kids in foster care is what you said.
What I'm saying is in general, overall. If I don't want to have a baby, I should have the choice to.
Just don't have sex then.
Even as teens, people explore. And it's like, as funny as you want to be, people should still have the choice. I think that you just don't understand the magnitude of having a child.
I'm not the one who admitted they would be okay with killing babies in foster care and killing children that have been abused.
That's not the point. What I'm saying.
That's really.
There is nothing that they're not outraged about. So you've got a lot of outrage culture, racism, sexism, climate doom and gloom. The world's about to end if we don't intercede. They're complaining about wage gaps. You name it, they're outraged about it. And they're always living in this constant grievance mode. And I don't see how, if you're going to live your life in constant grievance mode, how can you not be perpetually anxious, right? So, for example, like Philippians 4, verses 6 through 7, if you hold to a biblical worldview, this would be a tenet that you would live by, which says, do not be anxious about anything, but with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And then this is what follows. And the peace of God will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Contrast that with the perpetual grievance. Christian conservatives or conservatives in Christian, especially Christian women, we know that ultimate peace does not come from government programs. It doesn't come in some sort of feminist manifesto. We know that it comes from Christ alone. And so it's hard to be happy when your entire identity is tied up in protesting Chick-fil-A one week, screaming at the Supreme Court the next week. Like, sis, listen, maybe the problem isn't the patriarchy. Maybe, just maybe, the problem is your worldview. And I'm hoping, I know my audience is, I'm kind of like preaching to the choir, but if you know a liberal woman that is perpetually grieved, they complain about everything, the world is falling apart, at some point, I would want to ask them, do you really think it's the patriarchy? Do you really think it is? Or perhaps it is the way you view the world is in such a stark contrast to the way you were designed to be, which is why you feel like you're in fight or flight so much, which is why you are in perpetual opposition to everything around you, because it's unnatural. Like, you're fighting your natural God-given design. And so why are conservative women, why are we reporting more happiness? Now, hear me clearly. Listen, this is going to vary from person to person. So I'm speaking broadly. I can't party in, the outliers and the exceptions to the rules. We're just saying overall, why are conservative women, why are we reporting more happiness? Well, I would argue that it's not merely being conservative that is making us more happy. It's not that. But rather, I would go as far as to say that this has everything to do with worldview. The worldview that undergirds liberalism is toxic and destructive, right? I mean, first of all, it's anti-God on its face. And so therefore, in the absence of light, you're going to get darkness. But conservatives, we're not out here trying to dismantle or reimagine families. Like, that is absurd. So because we're not doing that, we tend to have stronger family bonds. We have family bonds and faith commitments and a sense of community that ties and unifies us to other people and interpersonal human relationships. But not only that, conservatives, we boast higher marriage rates. That's just a fact. And higher marriage rates equal more children, right? Children, according to the scriptures, are a blessing. They are a heritage from the Lord. And the fruit of your womb, what more beautiful thing is that? I can guarantee you a house full of children in the confines of a healthy marriage is going to yield way more long-term fulfillment. It just is. It's something else that I've noticed as a difference between liberal and conservative women is there's a belief in personal responsibility instead of the victimhood. Like, I've never met a liberal female that didn't place blame on everyone and everything else other than herself. It's exhausting. Have you ever sat and had a conversation with a liberal female? It will drain the life out of you because she's a perpetual victim. And because she is unable to accept accountability for anything, this victimhood is worn as a badge of honor instead of a stain of shame. And conservative women, we're not told to hate men. We're not told to hate men, hate babies, hate kids, hate ourselves. We understand boundaries. Boundaries and these God-given roles and the beauty of God's design. So in essence, conservative women, we're not fighting who and what God created us to be. We actually just lean into that. And then as a result, we just have more joy. I don't know, but I can't imagine waking up every day mad about everything. I don't want to listen. I don't want to hate men. Shoot, listen. Okay, I can't. First of all, I can't live in a world without men. Okay, I would die. Life is hard enough. My shoulders are petite for a reason. I don't want to carry the burdens that men are designed to carry. I wasn't created to do that, nor do I want to. So, what's the bigger picture here? Well, the bigger picture is that liberalism doesn't just produce bad politics, okay? And horrible policies that harm people and communities. It just produces bad fruit in the soul. That's my argument. The mindset and the worldview of liberalism, it will eat away at you and leave you empty and broken and miserable. I'm reminded of the words spoken by Jesus in John 15, where he says, "These things I've spoken to you, that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be full." Right? Like, how can you be full of joy clinging to a worldview that suppresses truth and completely alienates God? Where's the joy in that? I'm telling you, listen, without Christ, no wonder that so many liberal women are joyless. The so-called freedom of rejecting God's order, it actually leads to bondage, bitterness, and just burnout. These liberal women are not in a good place. And to be quite honest, I don't even like spending any measurable time around them. I mean, it's a lot having these women in your friend circle. And for me, I'm going to just be honest. Outside of evangelizing to them and giving them the truth of the gospel, the toxicity of how they think just rips all of the joy and peace out of life. I can't do it. So, are liberal women more unhappy and more prone to mental illness? I mean, the stats scream yes, they do. But the deeper issue isn't politics, it's worldview. And without Christ, when you don't practice gratitude, without the peace of God, you will always be restless. You'll always be chaotic and unsettled and just frazzled and like all over the place. That's why conservative women, especially Christian women, that's why we report higher levels of happiness and satisfaction. It's because when your hope is anchored in Christ and not the chaos of culture, your joy doesn't rise and fall with the headlines, right? Like, stuff is happening around us, but we're tethered to a sure foundation. And since that foundation is Christ alone, we are solid. We are solid, okay? But I'm curious to know from you guys, what do you think? In your experience, do you agree that liberal women do tend to be more miserable and toxic than conservative ones? Like, what have you seen out there anecdotally? I want you to let me know and leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Or if you be like, well, I really don't think it has anything to worldview. Some people are just more happier than others. That's possible too. I'm open to that being true. But ladies, if you find yourself more outraged than overjoyed, I mean, maybe it's time to swap the feminist manifestos for the word of God. Trust me, your soul will thank you. And so until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.